It was just a correction, one sentence, but you've been angry about it for months, maybe even years. You stopped presenting. You stopped raising your hand. You stopped putting your work where anyone could touch it because somewhere in you, you decided it's safer if nobody ever gets the chance to correct you again. And even now, when you think about it, you're not thinking about the mistake. You're replaying their tone, rehearsing what you should have said back and how you should have said it to defend yourself, to prove your point. You know why? Because it was never about the mistake. There's something else underneath it, something you never sat down and named. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what that something is, what causes it, how it's been quietly running your life for years, and how to finally deal with it. Let me tell you about Tega. Tega walked into that conference room feeling good. He had been up late tightening this report, and there was a quiet pride sitting in him that morning, the kind you feel when you know you did the work properly this time. He connected his laptop, cleared his throat, and began walking his manager and his team through the numbers, slide after slide, confident, until he got to the fourth one. His manager, Uche, leaned forward. "Tega, hold on, this number, where's that coming from?" Tega pointed to the source without missing a beat, but Uche shook his head. "No, that's not right. This whole column is off." And just like that, something dropped in Tega's stomach, fast. The heat started at his neck first, and in his mind, a single thought landed before he could stop it. "Everyone is looking at me right now." His jaw set, and instead of saying, "You're right, let me fix that," what came out of his mouth was something else entirely. "I mean, I used the same method as last quarter, the one that got approved, so I wouldn't call it off. I'd call it a different approach." The room went quiet. In that specific way a room goes quiet when everybody feels it, but nobody says it out loud. Uche just nodded and said, "Okay, let's fix it and move on." And they did move on. But Tega didn't. For the rest of that meeting, he wasn't really in the room anymore. He was replaying the sentence, building, in his head, the comeback he didn't say out loud. And here's the part nobody tells you, that meeting ended weeks ago. But some version of you is still in that room right now, still building that case, still rehearsing that comeback for a meeting that's already over. So let's slow down for a second, because what just happened had nothing to do with a number. Tega didn't get defensive about a spreadsheet. He got defensive about himself. Listen to the sentence again. Uche said, "This column is off." One column, that's all that was said. But what Tega heard, what his body reacted to before his mind even caught up, was something closer to, "You are not as sharp as you think you are." And that's the whole trick. One that's probably running in you too if you've ever felt that same heat rise in your own neck. When your work and your identity get fused together, when what you did and who you are become the same thing in your head, every correction to the work gets read by your nervous system as an attack on the self. Not, "The report has an error," but "I am the kind of person who makes errors, and now everyone knows it." That's why the reaction is faster than thought. That heat in the neck, the jaw tightening, that's not you choosing to be defensive. That's your brain running the same threat response it would run if someone stepped toward you somewhere you didn't feel safe. Psychologists call this ego threat, feedback that lands on identity instead of behavior and gets processed as danger instead of information. And danger doesn't sit still and think clearly. Danger fights, freezes, or talks its way out of the room. That line Tega gave about using the same method as last quarter wasn't logic. That was armor going up. And this is the part that explains the months, maybe even years. Because every time that armor goes up and nobody challenges it, your brain quietly learns a rule. Correction is dangerous. Avoid situations where it can happen again. That's why you stopped presenting, stopped volunteering the work. Not because you got lazy, but because somewhere back there you built a rule to protect yourself from a feeling. And that rule has been running your life quietly ever since, long after the moment that created it is gone. Later that night, Tega sat in his living room, television on but muted, phone face down beside him. The heat from earlier had cooled into something heavier, a tired shame he'd carried before, and didn't know what else to feel instead. And in his mind, one thought kept circling back. Maybe I actually can't take correction. So he opened the report again. He actually really looked at the column Uche had pointed to. He recalculated it by hand. And Uche was right. It was off. It really was wrong, he said quietly, to no one but himself. And here's the strange thing. The moment he stopped defending and just looked, the shame got quieter. Not gone. Quieter. Because now he was dealing with a fact, not a verdict on his worth. And that's what almost nobody tells you. The anger was never the problem. The anger is a messenger. It shows up exactly where your identity has attached itself to something it was never supposed to hold. A report, a title, a reputation for being the smart one. So ask yourself honestly, when last did somebody correct you and you felt nothing but, oh, good catch, let me fix it? If that feels rare, it's not because you're a difficult person. It's because somewhere along the line, being right quietly became the same thing as being safe. And being wrong started to feel like danger, even in rooms where nobody was actually a threat to you. The people you know who take correction easily, who say, true, let me fix it and move on in 3 seconds, they're not smarter than you. They've done one thing you haven't done yet. They've separated what I did from who I am. 2 different things held apart, so a correction to the work never gets to touch the self. And that separation isn't something people are born with. It's a skill, which means you can build it, starting with the very next correction that comes your way. So the next time someone corrects you and you feel that familiar heat rising in your neck, pause right there, before the comeback, before the explaining, and ask yourself one question. Is this actually about the work, or did I just make it about me? That 1 second of noticing is the whole skill. That's the difference between the version of you that keeps growing and the version still building a defense for a moment that ended months ago. If this was you, comment column 4, so I know it landed, and tag the one person who needs to hear this before their next correction.